And we're rolling. Check, check. Oh, I've covered the meter. Today I'd like to take a look at the audio effects that I'm using in OBS on this microphone. Now, you can use effects a variety of ways. Effects can be used to make things sound really interesting or really strange, or to fix problems with audio. But this is a look at how to use effects to make things sound normal. I know that sounds strange, but bear with me. Here we have OBS, and this is my filters on the microphone. And you can see I have in order a noise suppression plugin, a noise gate which I have turned off, a VST effect with an equalizer, that's that one over there, and a VST compressor, which is that one down there, and a limiter, the stock OBS limiter. This is how I have set it up to sound relatively normal. Let's turn off these effects so that you can hear how it sounds without them. Limiter, compressor, EQ, and... Oh, no, that's not the computer. It's not running that hard doing this. That is my fan. I have a very small fan on the desk that I have running because it's the tropics and I'm frequently warm. So I have a fan running. And so I use the noise suppressor to pretend there isn't one there. Protocol would be to turn it off. And if I'm doing something really super serious, I do. But in this case, the noise suppressor more or less takes care of it for me. Next up is our EQ. And you can see that over here. This is the TDR Nova, which I'll link to in the description. It's a free VST plugin. The reason I'm using this one is because it gives me a real-time analysis of the audio spectrum. So this is the low end down here, all the way up to the high end over there. And what that lets me do is see exactly how my signal is going in. And when you hit this little out button here, you can see what's going out. Now I have this set a particular way for a particular reason, and I can demonstrate that by turning it off. When you get closer to a microphone, you'll notice that the low frequency response of my voice gets much, much higher. It sounds like there's much more bass in my voice, and it sounds very natural. Except it's not natural. It's a matter of physics. The closer you get to the capsule of the microphone, the more bass response there is. It's called proximity effect, and that's part of what we're used to hearing in a broadcast microphone, for a male at least. So I like that effect. I'm used to it. So I use an EQ to somewhat recreate it by boosting the low frequencies just a little bit. And that lets me not have to be quite so close to the mic, so I can move around while I'm talking about things, or whether I'm gaming, and that's way too much movement. The volume would be changing too much if I had the mic set for when I'm right here. So then we have the compressor. And again, I have this VST compressor rather than the built-in one. The built-in one actually works fine. But I'm using the VST compressor. I just hit it from myself. That was smooth. So a compressor is, describing exactly what it does accurately is a little difficult. Basically, it's a volume control. It's an automatic volume control. So as the volume goes up, it'll automatically turn it down. The more it goes up, the more it'll turn it down. And how it does so depends on the settings. So let's have a look at the settings. I'm using the TDR compressor for the same reason I'm using their EQ. It has excellent visual metering. And that helps you understand how the controls work and what they're doing, and actually helps you set them properly. The built-in compressor in OBS works just fine, but it doesn't give you that same visual feedback, and that's why I use this one. Let's have a look here. I use a preset here called Vocal Bus Warm. It comes with it straight, and I use that preset because I'm lazy. No, I use it because I go from different system to different system often enough that I wanted a place to start that was consistent, and then I could just modify it from there because I'm lazy. So if you look at the threshold control, which is where we'll start, having used that preset, you can see here that it gives you a level of your voice. And where I want to set the threshold is just below where my voice normally gets to in the course of normal speaking. There really isn't any need to turn down the quieter parts of the voice. What you want to do is keep the loud parts from getting too loud. So if you can, as you can see here, the threshold is set where it is based on my volume. Yours will be different. And you can see over here that the gain is going down about 4.5 to 5 dB when I get really loud. For me, I'm not usually that loud. Because I know it's turning it down about 4 dB at the most, I can turn the volume up here in the output gain. I can turn the volume up 4 dB, and I'm not going to clip the signal at the top of the range. And what that does is what a compressor is basically doing. It takes the loudest sounds and turns them down, so that you can turn the whole signal up so that your voice is front and center most of the time. And it'll carry itself a little bit better over the sounds of a video game or background music and that kind of thing. You do have to be careful though, because if you have noise, the compressor will also amplify the noise. The last thing I have in the signal chain is a limiter. And the limiter does just exactly that. It limits how loud the audio can get. And that's all it does, especially the built-in OBS one. I have it set to negative 1.5 just so that if I get really loud for some reason, it doesn't hit the top. Because when it hits the top, it sounds really bad. And that's the signal chain. And it's basically just recreating what you do with hardware. And in fact, I think I do have some of that hardware. Yeah, I do. So, oh, I'd forgotten. Yeah, I have an equalizer. This is an old equalizer. This has even less visual feedback. And then here we have the FMR Audio Really Nice Compressor, or RNC. And it actually is a really nice compressor. Believe me, if I could, I'd have this in my system right now. So this way of using the plugins isn't going to fix problems. That's not what it's for. It's to recreate an audio signal that we're used to hearing. This is what it sounds like again without the plugins. Mic just by itself doesn't sound bad. It sounds like me speaking in a room with a mic. This sounds a little bit more like I'm in a studio. And that's just from using a series of plugins that replicates a set of hardware that make it sound like we're used to it sounding. Now you can do a whole lot more with these tools, but that gets a lot more complex. This has been a quick look at how to use these tools, assuming everything else is okay, to make it sound a little bit better, or a little bit more like a broadcast system. Thanks. We'll see you next time.